Special thank you to my YouTube members and patrons for supporting the channel and supporting my content. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another subreddit video. Today we are going to be once again returning to r/fakedisordercringe, specifically looking at all of the made-up disorders, because it's the only thing I think worth looking at in that subreddit now, because it's the only thing that is unjustifiably harmful. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to quickly mention that tomorrow Leo's Etsy store will be fully going live with all his stickers available on it, so definitely go check that out. The link will be in the description, along with his channel and stuff. Go check out Leo's stuff. He does like educational videos on fish and sharks and stuff, so go check that out. Let's take a look at the subreddit, shall we? Copy personality disorder. A medically unrecognized disorder, also known as a made-up disorder, where you have symptoms of depression, anxiety, DPDR, ADHD, PDID, and BPD, but in a personality disorder. The term copy is derived from all the symptoms copying onto one personality disorder. Now, BPD already is a personality disorder, so you're not really copying that into a personality disorder, it already is one. But like, what is it with these made-up disorders and having to like cannibalize and steal from other disorders? Like, if you have any or multiple of these disorders, that doesn't mean you have copy personality disorder, it just means you have those disorders, and you'd be diagnosed with those disorders and not copy personality disorder, which isn't real. Like, they're all separate things. You don't need to merge them into one disorder, and a lot of them have symptoms that like correlate or link. A lot of them have similar symptoms, so it just doesn't make sense. Like, and it's harmful to say that you have a made-up disorder when you have actual disorders. Food aggression disorder, and classically comes with a flag. The other one came with a flag as well, actually, because you can't have made-up disorders without flags. A medically unrecognized disorder, made-up disorder, in which a being displays symptoms that can include feelings of hostility, anger, or rage towards other when they get too close, or especially a reasonable distance away when one is eating, guarding food while eating, covering food with arm, turning one's back to others when eating, etc., with non-humans in mind but not exclusive, growling, barking, hissing, giving warning stares, etc. when others get too close, or especially a reasonable distance away when one is eating, any other symptoms one associates with this disorder. That's just called resource guarding, and actually can be a symptom of very real eating disorders. Like, once again, it's harmful to make up a disorder for a symptom found in other places with other descriptions and reasons. Stop it. Also, I'm loving the end of this where it goes, any other symptoms one associates with this. Like, if you have symptoms that I haven't listed here that you just want to categorize as part of this disorder, you can just add them to the disorder. What a scientific approach to disorders, am I right? So this next one, bit of a long one, and there's kind of multiple parts to this because it's going to mention things and then I'm going to have to explain the context, okay? So this is disordered telepathy, is a player disorder condition characterized by supposed telepathy, brain-to-brain communication, and claims of thought reading. Once again, as discovered in the last video I did on this, they love just making superpowers and going, I have this and it's a disorder. Telepathy's not real. Telepathy is the transmission and receiving of messages without physical or man-made control. The research around telepathy lacks support and is seen as pseudoscience because it is, and most studies have turned up inconclusive. The paranormal experiences seem to be psychosomatic as the mental experiences spike and affect the body image through constant change. Disordered telepathy as a player disorder means that the disordered telepathy is more of another disorder condition and doesn't fully stand on its own. While not a symptom, it would become one when paired with a disorder. So they literally just said it's not a disorder on its own, it's a part of another disorder. However, it's not a symptom, it's still a disorder on its own, it's just not a disorder on its own. You've just said this disorder is a symptom, but it's not a symptom, it's its own disorder. I don't think they understand how disorders work. Anyway, they then go on to say, applying disordered telepathy to fantasy personality disorder creates dramatic thought patterns surrounding telepathy in fiction. Fantasy personality disorder may make the disordered telepathy worse or better depending on the fantasies and the ups and downs. They bring up fantasy personality disorder, which has been recurring in the subreddit recently, as I'm guessing someone made this up and then a lot of the people on these forums that associate with made up disorders were were like, that one sounds fun. I'm gonna be that one. So I'm just gonna give a bit of fantasy disorder context just so that part makes a bit more sense, because they're just bolting more disorders onto it. So FPD and creation essay. Fantasy personality disorder is a medically unrecognized disorder that is characterized by dramatization of events, grandiose fantasies, and fantasized identities. It is a cluster B personality disorder and is seen as dramatic or exaggerated from the inner self. One thing I have learned with FPD is controlling triggers by means of creation and discovery. Now, they also then go on to talk about things like reality shifting, you know, visiting other realities. Once again, a part of the fantasy and making up disorders and superpowers, right? They talk about tulpamancy. A lichen family is mentioned here, where they actually talk about werewolves and stuff in a world they visited. It's reading like they're writing a fan fiction or a fantasy book, right? I asked this for days until his lips finally opened and he spoke to me in my mind. Hello, he said, still blinded by the fact that he was there. That wasn't my voice, that was his. If we both shifted to Earth, why does he not have his own body? Why is he in mine? This is wrong, this is wrong. It's actually just, they're writing a book. And you know what? This would be a really interesting story if they were actually writing it as a story instead of claiming it was real. Like, genuinely, they're talking about going to other realities, bringing people back into their reality, that person inhabiting their body in their reality, like all of this. And then the other person bolting on telepathy and stuff and linking that. And there's other posts of other people talking about this fantasy disorder. Like, it's a cool ARG, but they're not treating it like an ARG. They're claiming it's real. And that's the issue. I think I want to coin something new. An MUD. This is not glorifying MADD, making a mockery of it or anything. Wow, if you had to put that disclaimer, then I think it's likely you are, huh? FDD, fluid daydreaming disorder. A daydreaming disorder that's between MADD and immersive daydreaming. This can apply to those too. Feel as if their immersive daydreams are still disordered but does not match every MADD symptom. Has MADD but not every symptom. Sometimes maladaptive daydreams and sometimes immersive daydreams. Feel a mix of both. Feel as if their daydreaming experience is different than both immersive daydreaming and MADD. Have MADD but also immersive daydreams and feels like they're both connected. Any other MADD or immersive daydreaming experience. Made 2 flags for this because I feel like the first one wasn't good enough, but you guys can still use this if you want. Might make redesigns because the flag is the most important part, obviously. You need multiple iterations of a made up flag for your made up disorder, right? But this one, right? So basically what this one is just, I didn't fit into the categorization of a disorder that I thought was cool, so I'm just gonna make up my own. I don't fit into MADD, so I'm just gonna make up my own disorder. No one can tell me I don't fit into this one because I made it. That's what this is basically saying. This one's my favorite one. Infoil. A subterm of fictil for delusional people who believe they have a condition related to their information, in particular being infected by info hazards, cognito hazards, being a meme or anti-meme, etc. This can be related to the SCP universe, but is not necessarily so.
What? I got halfway through and I was already like, what the hell? And then you were like, the SCP.
It's an SCP disorder. SCP, famously not real. It's a made-up forum. It's a forum where people make up cursed cryptids and put them on a forum. Not real. And this person's like, yeah, I've got the SCP disorder. With a flag, it's gotta have the flag. You can't not have a flag. Because like throughout of this, like you could kind of tie this into things like psychosis or schizophrenia and things of like not understanding the difference between things that are real and not real, you know, being given information and believing it's real and kind of creating it to be real. Those are real symptoms of real disorders. And if you feel those, you should talk to a professional about them because you may have real disorders. So already it was off to a dangerous start with just co-opting real disorders, but then they made it about this SCP universe. It could be related to the SCP universe. Not necessarily so, but it could be. What? Oh, so yeah, this one's gonna be the title of the video. The SCP disorder. Erratic disorder. Erratic disorder is a made-up disorder defined by erratic and unpredictable behavior and symptoms. This may manifest as the individual seeming to act like a different person each day, having no or little consistent traits, and major fluctuations in physical and mental health. It may feel as if every aspect of the self is chosen randomly. The individual will have a base state that reflects their most common self. For example, my autism, radqueer identity, and fibromyalgia, among other things, are all part of my base state. Summary of symptoms: inconsistent personality traits, belief, opinions, likes, dislikes, etc., unpredictable behavior patterns, seemingly random symptoms of other disorders that will disappear after a random period of time, oftentimes fluid, complex, or forever questioning identities. Any other disorders a person has will also be erratic in nature, like randomly changing in severity or having random triggers for symptoms and episodes, having inconsistent memories of events and what one remembers, having episodes that can change randomly, often leading to inappropriate emotional responses, depersonalization caused by a constant changing self, leaving one with little sense of who they are. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of those symptoms are found in other disorders. Like, a lot of this seems to come down to things like mania and depression, because manic depression is a thing, which is a drastic fluctuation in going between depression and mania. You have things like bipolar disorder, which can also reflect massive fluctuations in mood, mania. Like, once again, them making their own disorder for this is dangerous because it's detracting from the fact that if someone relates to this, they could have very real disorders, but instead they're going to associate with some made-up disorder they found on Tumblr. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. People that are suffering from symptoms like this, especially drastically erratic mood swings that can affect how they feel from day to day, genuinely need to talk to a professional because those are real symptoms. Real, genuine symptoms. Parasocial personality disorder. A medically unrecognized disorder characterized by the presence of parasocial behaviors. Those with parasocial personality disorder may struggle with obsession regarding strangers, resulting in delusions of closeness and or distressing emotions. Those with HPD often have this disorder comorbidly. They also have a flag, because of course they do. Some primary symptoms of this disorder are being unable to properly understand boundaries in relationships, feeling unusually close with those who are, by typical standards, acquaintances/strangers, delusional behavior such as uncontrollable daydreaming about people in a way that is untypical, such as being their romantic partner or best friend, feelings of distress whenever the other person does not understand or ignores requests of closeness, stalking behavior that interferes with daily life, constant thinking patterns that involve that person, or of situations that allow for you to meet them or content that involves them naturally. Meet them or content that involves them naturally. So basically, this is taking parasocial relationships, which are a very real issue in the modern world, okay? With the internet and things, parasocial relationships have gone uncontrollably wild, okay? But what this is, and reading through the symptoms of this, is them justifying being in a parasocial relationship with someone and being really toxic with them, stalking with them, getting mad at them for not being close to them, trying to involve themselves in their life. It's doing all of those things and then going, it's not my fault. I have this disorder which just gives me parasocial relationships. I can't be held accountable for this. I have parasocial personality disorder. It's just a disorder. I can't be blamed for this. Like, no, you need to be held accountable for the fact that you have created this parasocial relationship with someone and you are being unreasonable and toxic with that person, okay? This could be a result of other disorders. There are disorders that can make you form bonds like this way more intensely. And as I said, parasocial relationships are getting more and more common with the internet and stuff and are a legitimate problem. However, this is a made-up disorder that is once again detracting from real disorders and stopping you from getting very real help for the things you are doing. You are justifying your actions with a made-up disorder, and that is not okay. Leave celebrities alone. Fantasycosis. A disorder that lies somewhere between psychosis and maladaptive daydreaming or other fantasy-based disorders. Intentionally left vague, named by ChatGPT based on our experiences. Feel free to make a flag if you want, I guess. We would, but we're suffering creative burnout and it doesn't really need one. Look, how can you tell me this is a real disorder when you don't even have a flag? As we all know, that's what quantifies something as a real disorder. I can't believe this, you don't have a disorder. But also, once once again, you're making up a disorder based on being somewhere between existing disorders. Like psychosis and maladaptive daydreaming are real things. Fantasy-based disorders, not so much. But again, you've left it vague, and you said intentionally, and you got ChatGPT to name it. You got ChatGPT to name it. So how much of this do you really believe? Like, you're making up more disorders, and you couldn't even go so far as to actually explain what it is. Like, when you leave it this vague, anybody could associate anything with this disorder and therefore avoid getting real help from real disorders they might have because they read a really vague description and go, I could fit into that. It's harmful. It's always harmful, and it's always going to be harmful. Persistent disregard of boundaries disorder. This is just a complaint and then the word disorder at the end. Like, a disorder where the afflicted entity repeatedly, intentionally, or unintentionally disregards the boundaries of other entities. I'm noticing they're using entities and not people, first and foremost. This is sometimes comorbid with autism and other neurodivergences that may make it difficult or impossible to understand when to stop something. I have autism and I experience this. Is that not just a symptom of autism though? Like, you're taking a symptom of autism and saying it's its own disorder. I'm not saying that everyone with autism obviously struggles to respect people's boundaries, but it can be a symptom. But you've taken that and made it its own disorder. Anyway, let's carry on. Such symptoms may include repeated severe harassment of others. Example, sending anon hate to someone and bypassing being blocked dozens of times, sometimes to the point of a restraining order or legal action. Intentionally violating DNIS. Sending shock content, e.g. gore to people, having parasocial enemies and repeatedly contacting them, violating a psychotic person's boundaries on reality checking them when they've explicitly said it's dangerous and otherwise bad, purposefully triggering a traumatized entity's trauma, example, if someone's trigger is watermelons and then they serve watermelons for dessert. This term does not condone harassment that someone may do. No, but that's exactly what this is. This is justifying being a horrible person by saying you've got a disorder. I take it back that this is a symptom of autism, because being autistic does not mean harassing people and violating them, which is what this is. This is literally you can't blame me for harassing these people and being an actual awful, horrible person. It's just my disorder, you see? It's not my fault that I harass people, send them gore, violate restraining orders, and harass my enemies. It's my disorder. It's not my fault that I deliberately trigger people's psychosis and PTSDs. It's my disorder. No, you're just a really horrible person, and you can't justify that by making up a disorder. Like, what this is someone said, you legitimately have an issue, you have a persistent disregard of boundaries, and this person went, persistent disregard of boundaries disorder? No, you might have legitimate disorders, but it's not called a persistent disregard of boundaries disorder. It's something else that you really need to get help for, because apparently you're a horrible, horrible person and you refuse to accept that you are actually the cause of that. And the final post. There's a few of these. Hyperempathy disorders. MUD coining posts. They've started saying that they're coining them, like, no one else has made up this disorder, so I'm gonna coin it. Like, that says all you really need to know, honestly. But anyway, object hyperempathy disorder, an individual who feels hyperempathetic towards objects. Animal hyperempathy disorder, an individual who feels hyperempathy towards animals. Plant hyperempathy disorder, an individual who feels hyperempathy towards plants. Non-human empathy disorder, a broad term for any individual who is hyperempathetic towards non-human entities. If any of those have been previously coined, I apologize. I'll be working on my own flags for any that haven't been coined. The flags. It's not a disorder to be empathetic of an object or animal or plant. It's just called being empathetic, or in some cases maybe projecting anthropomorphism, projecting anthropomorphism onto objects and animals, which increases your empathy because you treat them as though they are human beings that feel the same emotions you do. Like, those are all real things, but it's not a disorder to feel empathy towards things. That's being human, which is where a lot of these traits come from. So many of these made up disorders also just have human traits and go, is this a disorder? I feel empathy towards other humans. Am I mentally ill? No, you're not. So I've actually been informed by Leo after finishing recording that hyperempathy is actually a symptom recently discovered in autism, especially I believe in AFABs, which is to do with masking, and I can't remember exactly how you described it, but basically so overcompensation towards empathy and that kind of thing. But basically what I'm getting at is that yes, this is a thing, however it's a symptom of autism and not a disorder on its own. It's a thing that does exist in autism, but it isn't its own disorder. So this person is still making up a disorder based on something that exists. So if you are experiencing this, you may well have autism. So just bear that in mind. You don't have hyperempathy disorder or whatever it was called, but you could have autism. And that's where I'm going to end the video. Don't make up disorders, everybody. It's unhealthy and it's bad for everyone. It helps no one and it harms anyone. Thank you. If you want to support me in making more content like this, then I have a Patreon in the description down below, or equally you can click on that join button on the channel to support me. It helps a lot more than you might realize, but by no means should you feel like you have to. I'm going to keep making content regardless. Go check out Leo's Etsy. I'm gesturing that way because Leo is over there. Go check out Leo's Etsy and channels and stuff. Genuinely, he makes really good content and his stickers and art are adorable. So I'm actually getting one of them tattooed. So yeah, go check that out. Other than that, thank you so much. I forgot to thank my supporters. Special thank you, camera, focus on me. Special thank you to all of my YouTube members and patrons that do support the channel. All of you are incredible, wonderful, amazing people, and it genuinely means so much. So thank you to everybody that does. Honestly, thank you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.